everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 702, Sinner Rubdowns and Chelsea Beatdowns. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, Just signed our hockey team up for another tournament in October, so we're back on it again.
Where's this one? I know you had talk of
just in Phoenix.
Okay, no Mexico City.
There was talk we were going to do a tournament in Mexico City, and actually one just popped up in Tanzania in January.
Okay, you could take on a seriously high peak if you went to Tanzania then.
Yeah, I think the flight cost might be a prohibiting factor for that trip, unless someone wants to sponsor our team and get us on a private jet. I don't foresee us going to that tournament anytime soon.
I'll tell you this. If a sponsor comes through the podcast that's willing to offer a private jet, it's not going to your roller hockey team. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that now. But if you do
I thought I was trying to say that the podcast itself could sponsor the team.
Well, we're not doing that.
The Big Chill Podcast presents Saves the Boobies.
Well, I'll say again, when the podcast gets its own private jet, first ride is not going to go to the local Tucson roller hockey team. But if you do happen to go, I do have some good connections in Tanzania. So I would be able to help you on that front, but not when it comes to private jets.
What kind of connections are we talking here?
I mean, when in a former life, right, when I was working at UNESCO, one of my responsibilities, one of the jobs that I had there when I was a project manager was to oversee projects across Southern Africa, including Tanzania. And UNESCO has a field office in Tanzania. So a couple of my colleagues...
So you could get us into the UNESCO field office? Is that the connection?
A couple of my colleagues were based in Tanzania, who I was, worked with on a daily basis. So
nice.
Including one guy who's very, very friendly, who I'm sure would roll out the red carpet for the roller hockey, but you got to get there. I can't help you with getting there.
All right, well, I'll see what we can do.
So, obviously, a busy little period of sport. Going to get busier with the NFL season getting underway. College football kind of got underway this weekend. I managed to lose. Congratulations, pat myself on the back. Managed to lose my first college football bet of the season. So that was...
Oh, you took Florida State.
I did, yeah. Threw them in an accumulator. Only loss. So that was... As they say, start as you mean to go on. So there was that. I had that going for me this weekend. But which sporting topic would you like us to start on?
Well, I mean, I don't think we really need to cover much about the college football, but it was just fun to see football on again.
Yeah.
I did watch like the third and fourth quarter of that game just because I had no rooting interest, nothing. I was just like, I need football. Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Let me just soak it in a little. And it was a good ending, although it was a weird ending. It just like never ended the game. It was like I felt like there was 2 minutes left for 50 minutes, but
I don't think it even really ended. I don't think with that when he kicked that field goal, I think there was a second left. And I think the officials, everyone went on the field and the officials had a brief. They cut to that one official for a second, kind of on the hair. And I think he realized the ship had sailed in terms of trying to get them to play, officially finish the game. But it was entertaining. The second half was definitely good. It wasn't the highest of quality, but it was fun. I don't know how much the Dublin college football game appeals to me, I have to say. If I make my map of things I want to go to, I think that doesn't attract me at all.
But I think they're definitely the people who are attracted to it. I think obviously are the fans of those teams who are like, oh, I get a mini vacation, get to watch my team. And I saw some good memes about imagining being a Florida State fan and you got screwed last year out of a national championship and you think this is your year, so you spend $5,000 to go to Dublin and watch it burn in flames in game one.
I mean, that's the tough thing about college football, right? Like Florida State, I guess with the expanded playoffs, they still have a chance this year. That's the good news they can tell themselves, is that in the new system, they actually have some hope. But certainly in years past, that would have been season over basically before it's really even feels like it's begun. Like it's a tough thing. Speaking of football, though, and not the NFL, in my late night viewing, since I've got back to Paris and kind of settled in and been staying up a little late watching sports, getting myself primed, kind of getting my body clock ready for the NFL season to come. Also with the US Open getting underway, kind of making sure I can, tough it out on those long nights.
Is this a rare MLS discussion?
No, it's worse. Canadian Football League. I've been watching quite a bit of the Canadian Football League. Gotta say.
Wait. Are you
CFL
talking about like
American football?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Not the like Canadian Soccer League. Actual 3 downs, running starts, weird punt return, kick returns.
Okay.
I gotta say, I kind of like it. It's fairly entertaining. Like the 3 down thing, and the clock just never stops. Really, the combination of those two things, it's pretty fun to watch. Like they bang out a half in no time at all. There's a lot of action going on because it's literally like first down, second down, immediate pressure, third down punt. Like it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I didn't watch much when I was there. I had the unique opportunity that where I trained, there was actually several players in the offseason that would come work out. So I did interact with players that were playing in the CFL, but unfortunately didn't really watch them play. I think I went to one game. That was it. But it is fun. It's different enough that the differences can keep you kind of into it for a little bit until you start getting your feet wet into it. And then I think you just genuinely like it because it's a sport and it's competitive and it's exciting. But some of the differences, like I remember when I went, I enjoyed the differences, and that kind of got me like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, as I said, I watched the first game just because it was on and I put it on in the background while I was doing some work. And it gradually, I have to admit, I've also benefited from the fact that every game I've watched has been close. Like they've all come down to pretty much the last play. The big benefit is like I feel like with the system that they have, that's a lot likelier because you can get defensive stops more easily. Like it is just a case of 2 incompletions and you're getting the ball back. So, you can be down 14 at the like midway through the fourth quarter, and you don't need anything crazy to happen other than being quick. And when you get the ball, like moving the ball down the field yourselves, you actually have the realistic possibility of like we could have the ball 4 more times. Like we don't have to be perfect to win this game. So I'm not going to say I'm a convert. Once college football and the NFL are fully underway, I probably won't be watching another second of the CFL. I think probably last night was the last night for me for at least another 12 or so months. But I can thank the Canadians for briefly entertaining me about 4 nights this year.
Well, Eddie, actually, I think you might appreciate this fact. Do you know why it's called the Grey Cup? That's obviously the trophy they win when they win the award.
I presume it was named after someone, but I have no idea who that person is. Founder of the league, perhaps? I don't know.
No, I forget his first name, but his last name is obviously Gray, and he was the Governor General of Canada, which I think you might like because that's the person who's like the representative of the monarch in Canada.
That's why Canada's better, That's why I don't shit on Canada. This is my first opportunity to say something really positive about Canada. I took it, and I'm going to shit on America later. But speaking of late night entertainment there, I also briefly mention the US Open, which got underway today. Not too much to talk about by way of the actual play so far because it's round one. No upsets to speak of yet. But the big talking point is the news surrounding, I don't know if you saw, Jannik Sinner, world number one. It came out that he failed 2 drug tests earlier in the year,
Yes.
that he appealed those, and that they he got the benefit of the doubt that the excuses he came up with for why he'd tested positive were at least somewhat understandable. He claimed that it was cross-contamination from his physio, not something that he had intentionally taken. I think he tested positive for clostebol. I think it was clostebol. It's kind of received a massive uproar within the tennis world, surprisingly little attention kind of outside the tennis world for a story that involves the number one player in a sport, in a pretty major sport, having a failed drugs test, well, 2 failed drugs tests. It's probably not getting the attention that you might have expected, but a lot of players have come out speaking, including Novak Djokovic, saying that they think the system is kind of broken, that Jannik Sinner has been able to take advantage of his fame, the wealth that he has, the support system that he has around him to fight the failed drugs test, and that had it been a lower ranked player, they would have undoubtedly faced a 12 to 24 month ban. And, it's hard to argue against that thought process. Tennis kind of consistently bans players, and yet Jannik Sinner, it seems like, is going to go completely unpunished just because they're taking him at his word, fundamentally. The backlash has included Nick Kyrgios today on US Open television coverage, saying that he will not treat Jannik Sinner in the same way now when they see each other in the locker room. That was basically, but I mean, you have to say, when you do have the likes of Novak Djokovic coming out, which is kind of, I know there's going to be a whole part of the tennis world, because there's a lot of people within the tennis who sometimes accuse Novak Djokovic of perhaps taking things that he shouldn't. So I'm sure that there will be some people who will latch onto that, but it's a big story, probably not getting the attention it deserves.
It's definitely not. And then I'll give a little more information on the sorry, give a little more information on the story for those who hadn't heard. But supposedly it's the result. This is what Sinner has said. It's the result of contamination from a support team member who had been applying an over-the-counter spray containing clostebol, the antibiotic steroid, to their own skin to treat a small wound. And then that person was then massaging Sinner, and because it was on his hands, it then got onto Sinner's body. And then Sinner also followed up and said, we have to see is the amount I had in my body, which is, I'm going to go on his words here, 0.000000001. So there are a lot of zeros before coming up to a 1. So I was worried, of course, but I'm always the player who is working very carefully in this. I believe I'm a fair player on and off the court.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely, I'll say, if it truly is that small of a positive, then it's believable. The way the cross-contamination that he's describing seems somewhat unlikely, at least to me. Obviously, you're a man of science. I'm not. It seems...
Should we test it out? Do you want me to put some on my hands and I'll massage you?
Please. Next time we see each other, we will conduct an in-person test. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem super plausible, his excuse. As for citing the 0.00001%, I mean, I don't really know I don't know what that really means. You know what I mean? Like, percentage of what? Like everything in your body? Like what is a high percentage as a result?
Or it's like he didn't give the end part, so it might not even be percentage. It might be like 0.0000001 kilograms per ounce of body weight. Like some insane amount.
Percent of me is not drugs.
Yeah. I had the equivalent of enough that could knock out 4 cows in me.
But yeah,
Kyrgios, his quote on Twitter or X said ridiculous, whether it's accidental or planned. You get tested twice with a banned substance. You should be gone for 2 years. Your performance was enhanced. Massage cream. ... Yeah, nice.
I mean, it's definitely, you have to say, with the players who've come out, it's been pretty universal in terms of the people coming out and being critical of the situation. It has to be uncomfortable for Sinner now. Like, there is no doubt that it's going to be a frosty reception whenever he is in the locker room. But, you could go through the last 4 or 5 years of tennis and easily find probably a dozen players who have been suspended for extended periods of time as a result of 2 failed tests, and who I don't think were afforded that same appeal process, or probably were not in a position to fight it in quite the same way as Sinner was. And it does feel like a slightly unfair situation. I think either you need to be allowing everyone else to fight their positive test in the same way that Sinner has done, because I think not only is it questionable the fact that he's receiving no punishment, but also the fact that it's only just coming out. This was March that he failed his tests. So since then, he's played in the French Open and Wimbledon, made the semifinals of both. I think if you're running the ATP, you've got to be delighted that he won the Australian Open in January and has not won a major or the Olympics since then. Like, they must be so happy, because
he's still the world number 1 though.
Yeah, he is. But can you imagine if, how much Novak Djokovic wanted to win the Olympics? Imagine if Jannik Sinner had beaten him in the final of the Olympics, and then this had come out. You would have Djokovic burning the tennis world down. Like, this would be him going after a gold medal that he feels like he was robbed of. And it's hard. He still, yes, he didn't win. I mean, you'd say, in all likelihood, if he tested positive in March, there is a strong chance that he might have tested positive in January during the Australian Open, which he won. But there's players who he's beaten on the way to the semifinal in the French Open who have every right to feel aggrieved, but it feels like it's an inconsistent application of the rules. And I think there's a lot of tennis players who've received bans who are probably wondering, why didn't they get the Jannik Sinner treatment?
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely been getting rub downs for years. The question is, was his trainer, what kind of cream was he using during those rub downs? Is this a recent thing, or is this, been going on for years?
Yeah. And I mean, a part of it feels like, right, if you're going to buy into, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but if you do want to put your tinfoil hat on, you could maybe say that if you're running tennis, they're so desperate for the next generation of players to come through. You've already had like one generation between the big 4 and now fail. The likes of Zverev and Tsitsipas and stuff clearly are not going to develop into real, true world number 1s and consistent performers at the very highest level. The hope is Sinner and Alcaraz can take the mantle that Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, and Murray had. And you could say that's in the interest of tennis's governing body to not have Jannik Sinner suddenly get a 12 to 24 month ban, because it would just kill this generation of tennis overnight, because you'd just be left with, I guess we've got Carlos Alcaraz, and that's about it. Like, everyone else is good, but not great. And we're kind of gearing ourselves up for the Sinner versus Alcaraz decade. So there's every reason for people in charge of tennis to be lenient with Jannik Sinner, and it feels like they have been.
Yeah. Of all the people that's also been accused of doing anabolic steroids, I mean,
doesn't look like it.
Maybe, you know what? That's why I believe it to be true. Maybe someone at one point said, like, listen, you actually need some muscle to keep your number 1 ranking.
Imagine how skinny he would have been if he wasn't on the juice. They in the same way that they do that, like, Barry Bonds transformation where they show his like head size increasing and stuff. If you see Jannik Sinner before he got on the roids, he was a stick. But yeah, I mean, he's playing in the US Open. He's the number 1 seed. It's got to be, who's most upset about this? I bet you it's Daniel Medvedev, because he loves being the bad boy of tennis, and he loves like how the U.S. Open crowd hates him. And now probably Sinner is going to get a little bit of hate over the next couple of weeks, and it's really going to steal Medvedev's thunder. Like that's the thing that drives him on, is being the unpopular one. And now Medvedev, I might go out and bet on Medvedev to fail a drugs test in the next 12 months. Like he might have to compete with Sinner.
We might just try and one up him.
Yeah, he'll. I'm not even going to go there. That was a joke.
You're going to say he's going to massage himself?
No.
He's going to give himself his own rub down?
No. No. I'm sure he's doing that anyway. Yeah, U.S. Open. There we go. Big news.
I mean, I guess the other major sport was week 2 of Premier League and other domestic league action. Arsenal passed their first test of the year, beating Aston Villa, who they were unable to do last year. Could not beat them, but a nice 2-0 victory here. Does that at all change your opinion? I know it's very, very early on. Game 2, don't come to conclusions. We know City are inevitable. Just they run you down. They just don't stop. They're consistent. But does this at least bump up your opinion of Arsenal from last year to this year?
No. I mean, they weren't totally, Aston Villa gave them as good as they got in that match. David Raya pulled off a wonder save, like a contender for save of the season, really, already.
Amazing.
So, that could have completely changed the outcome of the game had he not, and I'm a bit of a David Raya doubter. So, if anything, maybe I'll stick to what I've always said about him. He's an incredible, shot stopper, pure just reaction. He's unbelievable. Was at Blackburn, was at Brentford, has been throughout his career. I just think he's a little bit undersized and slightly error prone in a way that you shouldn't be when you're, at a club competing for the Premier League and the Champions League. But yeah, I think Aston Villa will feel like, I think the 2-0 scoreline flattered Arsenal. And, it's a test. It's a definite test to pass, because Aston Villa are going to take points off of teams in the top 4 over the course of the season and may end up finishing in the top 4. I'm not ruling them out, but, it's definitely a tough test to have passed. But yeah, it doesn't, completely change. I know, well, everyone knows how good Arsenal can be. The question is, can they do it over 38 matches? And yes, we could record this clip now and probably play it for at least a couple more seasons. But the thing with City is, notoriously slow starters in the Premier League, you need to be 15 points clear of them at Christmas, because otherwise you're not winning the league. So yes, it's good. I was preparing when it was 0-0 and it looked like it might end in a draw. I was preparing to come on here and say Arsenal are out of the title race already, week 2. Because
I knew you wanted to.
It goes
Unfortunately, it went completely the other way.
Yeah, it's a shame. I'll save it for week 3 or week 4. But, it goes back. It's like a golf tournament or a cricket match. They always say in cricket, you can't win a match in the first innings, but you can lose it. Golf, you can't win a tournament in the first round, but you can lose it. All these teams chasing City, you cannot win the Premier League in the first half of the season, but you definitely can lose it. And you're going to have to be near perfect until January if you want to put any real pressure on City. So, because otherwise, even if you are 5, 6, 7 points clear of them at the start of the new year, they'll feel like they got you right where they want you. They've been there before. They're just going to rack, 10 wins to end the season, 30 points. Thank you very much. We'll lift the trophy in May. So, yeah, good for Arsenal. I am a neutral. I know some listeners might think I'm a City supporter. I'm definitely not. I am a neutral. So I want the title race to go on as long as possible. And yeah, Arsenal did well, but no, unless the only thing that's going to change my mind about their prospects is if they can make a couple of important signings between now and the end of the window on when is that, Saturday? Otherwise, no. We know where it's going.
The other match I kind of just wanted to quickly bring up is Chelsea, who beat Wolves 6-2. Shout out to a friend of the podcast who is a diehard lifelong Wolves supporter, even though he can't
Oh.
properly tell people he is.
That must have been crushing for Ollie. He must have felt like that was building up to Chelsea supporter, and then right at the last minute you said Wolves, and it's not Ollie. Yeah, sad day for Rich, good day for Ollie.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the comment that they, 6-2. That was about 8% of their total output from last season. So a much improved performance of just being able to score, which we did not see much from Chelsea last year. Whether that will be sustained, TBD.
I mean, they have so many attacking players to choose from, then obviously a little embroiled in controversy in terms of how big their squad is. The fact that you have a new manager who basically said in the media, well, my squad isn't that big because as far as I'm concerned, half of those players are not like under my control. They are for either they're under like the reserves or for another team. You got obviously sort of unprecedented the week before when you had Raheem Sterling, mid-match making an official statement questioning what his future was. The farce of Chelsea selling Conor Gallagher to they'll probably be selling Conor McGregor at the rate, or signing at the rate that things are going, but selling Conor Gallagher to Atletico Madrid just so that the finances worked out. Like they bought João Felix just so that Atletico Madrid could basically afford to sign Gallagher. Fundamentally, I mean, it's just, I want to say they're making a mockery of the financial fair play rules, which they are, but that would also imply that they're like succeeding in the process, which they aren't. But it's just a complete mess. I think it's going to all end in tears, possibly for two things. One, it might kill the financial fair play system. I mean, between Chelsea and City, I think the financial fair play system is doomed because you got two teams flaunting it in different ways. But also for Chelsea, I just think it's going to end up with probably eventually Todd Bowley and his investment group, leaving Stamford Bridge with their tail between their legs with a massive mess behind them. But yeah, I think Chelsea will have performances like that over the course of this season. When everything clicks, they're going to be hard to beat because they do have so much talent in that side. But ultimately, I don't think everything will click often enough. They're going to be better than they were last season. I expect them to be a top 6 side challenging for the top 4. But
expect them to be a top 10.
Yeah,
better than last year.
Never. I don't think they'll flirt with relegation at any point this season. I'll make that bold prediction. But yeah, I don't think City are going to be paying any attention to them just yet.
And then I mean, we already discussed, City just they will wear teams down and wear down this season, and they continue to do so with a 4-1 win. Yeah. I have to say, early on, I would say like the day before. Here's another Frank bet after the fact.
We're gonna get a little like jingle for this, so you can cue it up each time.
The night before, I had in my mind thinking about you and I constantly discussing Erling Haaland and how he loves to rack up the goals in matches where it comes very easily, and then kind of goes silent in those matches where they really need him. And this just to me popped up as like the first one of the season where he can just go out and completely dominate against the team. So I took Erling Haaland to score a hat trick, 3 goals for those unaware. And what's funny about it was 6-1, which is extremely low. If it were any other player, I think you're at least looking at 12s to 14s to 1 to score 3 goals in one match. But this is the equivalent of like most players scoring a goal in a match, besides the number one player on that team. So the odds were so low, but when he scored in the 12th and 16th minute, I thought it was going to be the greatest bet of my life. Like I was getting ready to text you 20 minutes into that match saying I have just hit like the greatest bet of my life from a standpoint, but then I had to sweat it out for the next 65 minutes. And I like how they didn't take him out of that match. I don't know when we consider how long that season is. And I honestly think the reason they didn't was because partly he was sitting on that brace,
he wants the hat trick.
and he wants the hat trick, and he wanted it. And I think they kind of just, let him stay out there and have it. And he did eventually get it in the 88th minute to kind of save me from being extremely angry about it. But
I think the thing that saved you is one, yes, I think it's let Haaland get his hat trick early in the season, get the first hat trick out of the way. I think the other thing is obviously with Alvarez having been sold, there's not a natural replacement. Like had Alvarez been on the bench, it would have been like, okay, we know, all right, Erling, we know you've got 2 goals, but it's the 70th minute. We're in control. Let Alvarez have a run out. But until the Alvarez replacement is in, it's kind of really his opportunity to score late goals in meaningless matches. But yeah, it was a smart bet. I do agree with you. The logic that you've come up with was all very, very sound. And it was almost helped by Ipswich taking that early lead, because then you're like, well, City have to score at least 2 now. So like, this isn't going to be a 1-0 and they kind of hold on, which was unlikely, but could have happened, but yeah, it was a smart bet, but you had a few factors going in your favor.
Yeah. And along the Haaland front, for someone who is so in tune with their body and, doesn't eat sugars, he's like the Tom Brady of the Premier League, except he's doing it when he's in his 20s and not when he's almost 40. He doesn't drink, hits the ice bath after every match. Maybe he gets a posture coach, because he's going to have some severe back issues in a few years if he continues to hunch the way he hunches on that pitch for all 90 minutes. I mean, someone's got to tell him to pull his shoulders back a little. We have a friend of the podcast, Tim Swartz, who could give him a good talking to about how to fix his posture a little bit here.
What's the Tim Swartz quote on perfect posture?
I can't remember. Do you?
It's like the only perfect posture is like a constantly changing posture. It's something like something like that. That's the quote. It's it's true. He's got a little bit of a slouch, and I think part of it's just he's such a big guy.
He's so big.
He's almost uncomfortable in his body. He looks like he's trying to be smaller at all times, but. I think it's actually kind of part of his appeal, because there's a slight awkwardness to him that is out of character with the dominance plus his personality, and that's sort of appealing in a way.
Just watching his slouch body slowly jog in and out of the box for 90 minutes just gets to me after a while. He needs that thing that bra thing that pulls your shoulders back that Brady Quinn used to use.
He is wearing one of those tracking, basically the sports bras that they wear. So you'd think that would help, but obviously not. But yeah, I think, and in other European footballing news, Bayern Munich survived a slight scare on the opening weekend. They were 2-1 down to Wolfsburg at one point, late comeback to win 3-2 to avoid possibility of an early slip up and a feeling of more of the same. It felt more of the same for Bayer Leverkusen, defending champions, who were 2-0 up on the opening night on Friday. Then suddenly it was 2-2 and they got a penalty in the 96th minute, something like that. Same story as last season, where they just find these late goals. You thought they'd used it up in 2023-24. Now it looks like it might continue in 2024-25. But yeah, I mean, if they can have that kind of luck for another 38 matches, and they've got a chance of defending their crown. But Bayern looked all right in Vincent Kompany's first competitive match as Bayern Munich manager. But no Harry Kane goal. That was the one thing. He might have been tempted to throw that in, the Harry Kane opening weekend goal for Bayern Munich. Played pretty well, but did not score.
So I'm along those lines, though. I did write down a question from this weekend that I wanted to ask you, and that Real Madrid have a draw and a win so far this season in La Liga, and Kylian Mbappe has started both matches. I think he played the full in the first one, and then was subbed late on in this recent one. No goals. He does have a goal in his first match, I think it was his first match in the Super Cup or whatever that one was.
UEFA Super Cup, against Atalanta.
Yeah. But in matches that actually matter, he has nothing so far. Any slight worry there? Still too early? Or
I think the worry for him is like, at what point do you get a little bit of pressure for him to lose his place? That's going to be the thing, is like, how long can you? He missed one really good chance against at the weekend, like when they were 1-0 up, and he missed a very good opportunity not that long before he was substituted off. I think the concern for him will just be the amount of talent, obviously, in that Real Madrid squad, attacking talent, and that you might at some point, I mean, he's got a while, right? He's a global superstar and he's their big summer signing. They're not going to drop him too quickly, but, Endrick came off the bench replaced Mbappe. He scored. Endrick is supposed to be one of the next stars of football. Like, there's a lot of competition for those 3 attacking places for Mbappe. Yes, he has the potential of being played out wide instead of right now he's being played through the middle. Probably not his strongest position, really. He does typically play on the left, both for France, and even when PSG have been at their best, it's involved Mbappe being on the left-hand side. The problem is Vinicius Jr. plays on the left. I don't think he's going to wrestle that position away from Vinicius Jr. after all he's achieved at Real Madrid so far. So yeah, the pressure will be when do we see Mbappe not start a match because they decide to give Endrick a go, or there's a host of players that you could make a case for, but I think he's fine. They certainly haven't lit. I watched the match on Sunday. They weren't amazing. There was a certain inevitability about them winning, but they were not great. And so, yeah, they were probably a bit more threatening when he went off.
So I have one non-sports topic, but it does reside in England, so maybe I'll mention it now. When I went on vacation to Scotland, I brought a bunch of things back, and one of the things I brought back
was COVID.
Was COVID, yeah. Was an Eccles cake, and I had never had an Eccles cake before.
Were you encouraged to buy them before you did the Ben Nevis? It's a big, eat it on a hike, eat it on a walk kind of thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
No. I just saw it so we went to. I always try and find those stores that actually sell local goods, made by local people, and not just the I Love England or I Love Scotland keychains, with the stupid mass produced kinds of things. And I actually got to go to 2 of them, one when we were in London and one when we were in Scotland. And the one in London had the nice local bakers, things like that. So this was an authentic Eccles cake. Have to say they're pretty good. So for those who don't know, it's basically just kind of like a small pie, almost like it was like a turnover filled with currants and a flaky pastry crust, which they wanted you to know was 100% butter. It literally said 100% butter on the label. So I guess it's good.
They got to say that because the Eccles cake was banned from 1650 onwards. And the reason was with a Puritan government at the time in the United Kingdom for being too rich and too sumptuous. So
are you serious?
Yes. So that's why they got to let you know. They got to let you know they're really fighting back against that oppressive regime of the
nice.
I guess technically Middle Ages.
Now the other thing I'll say, it was quite tasty. I really enjoyed it, but then I started to do some research on the Eccles cakes, and I got really into it, and I noticed that Blackburn has a similar one, the Blackburn cake, but it's made with stewed apples in place of currants as the filling. That sounds very much to my liking. So maybe I just go to Blackburn for the cake and not for the Rovers match.
Well, there's a chance that might be the case just in the not too distant future anyway, with the way things might go. So I've never had that, to be honest. It's not really my type of thing, I've got to be honest. But yeah, I think I've only had an Eccles cake itself maybe only 2 or 3 times. But yeah, I've never had any variants on the Eccles cake. One last sporting topic that I have, a little bit of a gripe. I've been too positive so far, probably. So I thought I'd have a slight complaint in the post-Olympic world, in which some of those Olympic events are still getting a bit of attention. One of which is the pole vault. Obviously, kind of Olympics was a chance for.
Are we doing the penis?
We're not doing that. We're not doing the penis. We're not doing the penis.
The penis hitting the bar story.
No, it's. I'm actually just focusing on what his name is, Mondo Duplantis, Armand Duplantis, the reigning Olympic champion, world record holder. He broke his world record again at the weekend. I think it's the 10th time he's broken his own world record. So I did a little bit of digging into that because I was like, how is that possible? Like, how do you keep getting that little bit better? And then basically he's now annoyed me because in reading about it, it was like, oh, it's kind of he's fixing it because he realizes no one can beat him. He's too good. And basically in practice, he jumps significantly higher than he's jumping in competition now. But he gets from his sponsors every time he breaks the world record, he gets an incentive. And so he's just like jumping centimeters higher each time so he can re-break his own world record over and over again and get that like financial kick in each time.
Good for him. We call that entrepreneurship, Eddie.
I mean, at what stage as a sponsor do you go, enough? Like, look.
What stage as a sponsor do you call on the guy who wrote that contract and go, you really fucked us. You're gone, buddy.
Oh, that guy's been fired already. That guy's long, long gone. Around the 5th time he broke his own world record, they were like, who the fuck drafted this contract? The thing that I love is obviously multiple sponsors, so they probably all went to the same guy. It's probably just his agent who like very, worded it like, well, I mean, what if he breaks it again? But yeah, I do agree with you. If it were me, would I be doing it? Possibly. I don't know. But then it's also like, show us how high you can jump. Like, let's get it over and done with. Like, his dad, who is his trainer, because obviously one of the big stories too, and this speaking about him post Olympics, was because his dad's American, his mother's Sweden. He grew up in the U.S. He chose to represent Sweden. This is my chance to shit on America, where a lot of people were like, why didn't he represent America? Like, how did we let him slip through our grasps? And one of the big reasons is supposedly Sweden said, your parents can coach you. Like the U.S. were like, no, if you're going into the U.S. athletic system, you can't have your parents be your coaches. Sweden said,
oh, so you're pro helicopter parents.
100%. Well, when you become a world champion, yeah. Just focus on the positive outcomes. But his dad says like, oh yeah, he jumps significantly higher, like in training. We know he can go higher. I want to see it. Let's see, like, is there a chance he retires? Because it's kind of annoying. He's going to retire and be like, oh, I could have gone higher.
Or what if you get injured, right? What if you get injured and you can never get back to where you were?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just, I get it. The money must be nice, but I'm going to presume he has ways of making money now for the rest of his life.
I mean, the real kicker is we find out it's like $250.
That's what I want to know. How much is it? Like, how much do you realistically think a sponsor is paying a pole vaulter every time they break the world record? We are not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No.
Like, maybe he's getting a $20,000, $30,000 across.
I would even say
across
less.
all his sponsors. You know what I mean? Like, if he's got 5 sponsors, each one of them's giving him $5,000 whenever he breaks a world record. I don't know. That does sound kind of pitiful when you say it, though. Like, here's your $5,000 bonus for breaking a world record. Yeah. But it is the pole vault. Like, if they're paying him more, I got to question who these companies are sponsored. Like, what is the benefit of paying this guy so much money? I can't tell you anyone who sponsors him.
Now, do you think that the sponsor, so let's say he's broken it 5 times in the last year.
Yeah.
Can that sponsor then say, we've sponsored 5 world record holders?
Yeah, I mean, they could probably get a little creative with how they could describe it. Again, I don't know what the benefit for them would be. I'm not going to be like, oh, hold on a second. Rolex have 5 pole vault world record holders for Rolex. I am going to buy a Rolex. I was contemplating it. Now I'm going to do it. But yeah, I don't. Just show us what you can do. You know, like it would have been frustrating if Usain Bolt had been like, look, I'm gonna do 9.65, then 9.64, then 9.63, and we'll see how long I can.
If Usain Bolt could gauge that type of time in his head mentally, that would be fucking impressive. I would prefer if he did that. That would be insane if he ran 10 races and shaved off 100th of a second every time.
Factoring in wind. Like factoring in the like, oh no, but that was a 0.5 deduction on wind, so I have to adjust how fast I run here now. Yeah, it's show us what you can do. That's my statement. I'm calling him out.
Wow. Okay. Shots fired.
And actually, final note, I suppose, sadder news. Sven-Göran Eriksson, former England manager and former manager of about a dozen European football clubs over the last few decades, died today. Sort of sad news. Sad news for me in particular. I'm not someone who's much affected by like celebrity deaths, but this was one of those, you have someone die and it like makes you think he was England manager and like covered such a perfect period in my life in terms of like early teens, teenage years. You're super into sport, carefree World Cup Euros viewing in 2002, 2004. So it was one of those where you like think back on those periods of your life. Quite sad. He also was appointed Blackburn manager in 1997 and quit before he started. So,
Oh, the Bill Belichick move.
Yeah. He's got that going for him. He didn't then go on to have 25 years of dominance with a team, so he didn't quite pull off the Bill Belichick. But he did.
Well, he didn't have Tom Brady.
No, he did resign before he managed a match, and instead, Blackburn ended up being relegated soon after, so it didn't really work out for the club. But yeah, sad news. Seemed like a nice guy. Managed to handle some very controversial periods in his life with a lot of charm. Yeah.
Well, with that, do you have any more sports topics or?
Don't think so. Obviously, we got our next episode will be our NFL preview probably. So,
yeah.
But aside from that, nothing else to cover from the last few days.
I did go to the movies this weekend.
What did you see?
It was not Horizon, an American Saga.
I thought I convinced you.
But I think I just saw it's going to be on one of the streaming platforms starting next week. So I actually will watch it. I think it's going to be on Max maybe, or no, it doesn't seem
Well, right. I'll say this.
I forget.
It is very long. Kevin Costner ignored our calls for a break. However, there are plenty of opportunities to pause that movie during one of the long landscape shots. You can happily pause, come back to it the next day, go off and get some new snacks. It has been well constructed for dealing with the length of time. But I will say, if you're listening and you're on the fence, buy a ticket, go and see it, watch it when it comes out on streaming. But yeah, it's not amazing.
But I did waste my money for another billion-dollar conglomerate in Marvel and went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine. It was what you'd expect from Deadpool and Wolverine. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's funny. It's very lighthearted in the sense that it makes fun of Marvel quite often, and it makes fun of those involved in Marvel and even like some of the previous movies, which is kind of fun to see. I enjoyed the first two Deadpools. I enjoyed the first one a little more than the second one. My only issue is it gets to a point where it's like 1,000 jokes a minute, and the over-the-top violence is fun for like one or two movies, but in a movie where like no one really can die and everyone like regenerates, watching a 20-minute fight scene between Deadpool and Wolverine when they both can survive and regenerate just gets really old really quick. Like, it's cool for 30 seconds. You're like, oh man, that was gross. Like, he put the things through his face. And then when it happens 13 more times, it's like, okay, enough with this. Like, let's get over this.
Yeah, I think that's fair criticism. I think the other thing too, and I like Ryan Reynolds. I know I'm sometimes critical of Wrexham and the reality TV show surrounding it, but I do like Ryan Reynolds. I think the thing with Ryan Reynolds was, like, I really liked Two Guys, a Girl in a Pizza Place. Then he disappeared. And then he came back. It was like, that guy's back. And Ryan Reynolds is just Ryan Reynolds. You know, like in everything, he's Ryan Reynolds. And then he came back and it's been nice. And I think it's time for Ryan Reynolds to go away again for a little bit. Like, I think we've all had enough Ryan Reynolds. Like, the breaking the fourth wall, the type of humor he has. You know, it's nice. He seems like a good guy. But maybe...
I think it's I agree with you. I think it's relatable because I think he does have like a pretty genuine sense of humor. Like, he's someone, like, if you went out with him at a bar, he would be able to just off the cuff make good jokes.
He'd be Ryan Reynolds. He'd be Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like, that is who he is. Like, there's no doubt. You see him in interviews. It's the same. That's who he is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is enjoyable, but you're right. Whether this needed to be made as a movie, I don't know. But it got to a point, like, I enjoyed it, especially as a Marvel movie. It's the best Marvel movie I've seen in a very long time. But it's just like, so like, the jokes just like don't stop. And at a point, it's like, just give me a 30-second breather here. You know, like, not every sentence has to be a joke within a joke on top of a joke referencing a previous joke. And that was my only criticism. But I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. Definitely, like, if don't go in expecting Oppenheimer, you know, but for what it was good.
Yeah, that seems fair. I probably will not see it. But yeah, it's
a lot of cameos, which I think is kind of fun. There were some pretty good ones. Channing Tatum had like a really good one, I thought.
A Wrexham player.
Yeah, Wrexham player. But you don't ever see him. You don't see him.
That's the other thing I got to say. Again, I know it's been part of his genius and his success, his ability to like cross market and do all that.
Yeah.
But we got enough. We've had enough of it. You know, like, not everything. You're not a marketing genius because you're famous and you can stick the stuff you've invested in the other things you do. Like, whoa, why haven't we done that? You know, like, why aren't we marketing the podcast by appearing in the next Iron Man movie and having the Big Chill podcast? Why are we missing this opportunity? Frank, why didn't we think of that? But
so I shouldn't have turned down that email from Robert Downey Jr.
Out of principle, I won't do it. You know, we're going to grow this organically. We're not going to whore ourselves out for the podcast. But again, I don't begrudge him any of that, but like, not everything needs to be a marketing opportunity for your 19 other ventures. Like, at a certain point, the charm of that, which was like when he had the whole success with Aviation Gin and he like went on whichever late night show that was, I think it was Jimmy Fallon, and spoke about like, I have an email address and it's actually my email address and I respond to those emails. And then they like broke their server because so many people emailed, you know, like Ryan at aviationgin.com. It's clever, but like, not everything needs to be clever marketing. Like, the charm of the, I'm not really marketing, but I am marketing, wears off when it's like, well, we know you're actually marketing. Like, this is what you do now. You're no longer really an actor. You're a vehicle for all of the other things you've invested in. Anyway, I got to give me credit. He's Canadian, so that's me just shitting on Canada. I complimented them over the CFL. I take it all back. I will never watch another CFL game again until Ryan Reynolds has retired.
I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But one of the only takeaways I did have from the movie, though, is I don't feel that bad because he's obviously making an enormous amount of money. But at and this was obviously a joke within the movie multiple times. At some point, I start to feel bad for Hugh Jackman a little because they just keep getting him to come back as Wolverine. And again, I'm sure he's getting a ton of money, but someone who's close to hitting 60 and has to look the way he has to look in those movies, that's got to be taking a toll on him at some point. Like, that's going to come back to haunt him, and it's going to come back pretty quickly, I think. You know, like there were scenes in that movie where you look at him and you're just like, man, he looks as jacked as he did when he was 35 in the second film, you know, like that's coming at a cost.
Well, I mean, we know that Hugh Jackman has been giving Jannik Sinner massages recently, so I think it's all making sense. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously, like all these guys, right? He's taking steroids. You know, like, they're not getting in, as none of them will admit it, but he's definitely doing it. I understand why, because otherwise it's unachievable for what is he, 55?
I think he's like 56, 55.
Like, to be getting in the shape that he's in would otherwise be impossible. But, like, sooner or later, there's enough, like, actors clearly getting on pretty intense steroid cycles at different moments in time. Someone's going to die. Like, there's going to be a bad story out of this.
I was going to say, do you think there's going to be, like, to how concussions were to the NFL? You're going to have something like that in the actors world?
Yeah. Yeah, and when The Rock, you know, goes on a murderous rampage at some point, you know, and it's going to, it turns out it was what he was doing to himself for the last, like, 25 years. But
there's someone I think that needs to go quiet for a few years.
Yeah. There
was another movie preview for The Rock. He is like the Secret Service equivalent for Santa Claus, and Santa Claus has gotten kidnapped and he has to get him back.
And again, I like
and guess who else is in that? It's not Ryan Reynolds though. It's Chris Pine. Not Chris Pine. It's Chris Evans. Close enough. Captain America.
Chris Pine would never do that. He has integrity.
Chris Pine would never do that.
He wouldn't. Chris Pine
only Dungeons and Dragons. and then 2 Wonder Womans, and then a Star Trek franchise.
He has integrity.
Yeah, he's not a sellout.
Those were passion projects of his, and he wanted to make sure they worked, and they did.
You couldn't have picked someone who's been in more major franchises.
But he was in Hell or High Water, so I love him, okay?
Love it.
The greatest modern Western. I actually watched clips from Hell or High Water just yesterday on YouTube. So,
it's so good. It is such a good movie.
I watched 3 times yesterday the same clip. The clip at the end when they have the showdown, when he turns up at the house, and they have, you know,
house.
Like,
I thought the ending is like they're on like the side of the cliff, not cliff, but like mountain with the car.
When his brother kills. Then afterwards. What's the name of the actor? Big Lebowski.
Jeff
Bridges. Yeah. Jeff Bridges comes to his house to, like, confront him.
Yeah. Let's not spoil it, but
the movie came out nearly a decade ago.
But I bet you there are so many people who haven't seen Hell or High Water. That was a problem. For some reason, it, like, never got the publicity it should have. I think it's one of the better movies I watched in that era. It is so good.
Oh yeah, I mean, I will kind of jokingly recommend Horizon. Like, Hell or High Water is a wonderful movie. Like, it's truly wonderful. But what we were talking about before we went on in the Chris Pine, the Rock feels the same way as Ryan Reynolds to me in some respects, which is like, he has this natural charm, and I actually do like him. But now he's just in too many things.
I did.
Yeah, and it's just,
I did.
I got too much Rock. And it's like, give us a little bit of a break, and then we'll appreciate you more when you appear in something. But if you're in a movie every 4 weeks, it's just overload.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, that's the other thing. I was in a supermarket today, 2 American girls speaking.
And you saw The Rock with Chris Pine.
No, 2 American girls having a conversation. There was an Asian supermarket picking up, like, one ingredient for dinner. And 2 American girls were in there speaking while they were shopping. And the conversation I overheard was, I'm really happy because I just found online a Dungeons and Dragons group that's going to allow me to start playing. I haven't played since I lived in New York. Oh, you used to play Dungeons and Dragons? Yeah, I was a GM for 2 years. And
Wow, really?
yeah,
Good for her.
yeah, of the Jets. And she was like, we ran this really
She's
great game.
responsible for Rodgers.
Yeah, we ran this really great game. It was one of those conversations where I was like, would you be having this conversation as freely if you thought that other people, like everyone else around you, could not properly understand what you were saying? Like, I understand, in Paris, you're speaking English. Very strong likelihood that even the French people can pretty much, but it's once you start having nuanced conversations, you can kind of feel a little bit safe that they might not be picking up. So like when you're like, I used to be a GM, you're probably thinking to yourself, the French people around me probably not picking up on my grandmaster days from Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah.
Well, Eddie, I mean, this is on you because nerd culture is now mainstream culture, Eddie. So you shouldn't be embarrassed to talk about your Dungeons and Dragons in public.
It's true. I mean, don't be embarrassed to talk about anything in public. Just be yourself.
Yeah. When we just talked about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes, it's true. And we nerded out there for a bit.
Yeah. And then I will say I'll go highbrow a little bit. I finished season 3 of The Bear, which I know you were not a fan of The Bear and never really watched The Bear. Season 1, which was great. Season 2, which was one of the better seasons of television I've seen in a very long time. Season 3 took a little bit of a holding pattern in the air. There's been a lot of pushback on this season. And I don't know how I feel about it, because from a experience, like from a cinematic aspect of it, the season, like previous seasons, was like beautifully done. Like the dialogue was spot on. The way the scenes were filmed was amazing. Everything in that regard was beautiful. Like they do a phenomenal job. It's so high level. So in that aspect, I really enjoyed it still. And it's not for everyone. I mean, there's a full episode of 40 minutes where there's not one word is spoken, and it's just a bunch of flashbacks and cutscenes to like food dishes and, kind of like Chef's Table meets like the crazy mind of a chef and things like that. But I enjoy it, and it's done so well. But in this season, literally nothing happens. So they've established the restaurant in season 2. It opens in season 2. This is this season. It goes from them now running the restaurant and getting reviewed to the review coming out. Nothing happens. You don't even know what the review is at the end of the season. The head chef is completely the same as he was in the beginning of the season. The second in line chef is completely the same as they were in the beginning of the season. Like they each had like one decision to make, and they didn't make any progress on the decision. So literally nothing moved forward in the entire season. So I don't know how to feel when someone says, how was that season? When I can say, for me, I enjoyed it, but like something needs to happen for it to be a good season of television. Like you can't just watch randomness and there's no progress, I feel like. So you kind of have to knock the season on that aspect, even though it's tough to say like how much is enough to make a season a season.
No, I think I don't think you're alone. I obviously don't watch the show, but you kind of hear reaction to it, and generally it has not been super positive when speaking about this season. And again, it kind of, not a watcher, and obviously we spoke off podcast, the fact that Ted Lasso may be coming back for another season. There's this trend. You got to know, even if you've caught lightning in a bottle with a TV show, just know when to stop. Like I know when I love certain shows, you never want them to end, but those tend to be shows where it feels like I'm happy with Always Sunny coming back over and over again, or Curb when it was coming back, because for the most part, even though maybe sometimes they lost the fastball a little bit, felt like you're giving me enough of what I loved that it feels worthwhile.
Yeah.
But with some of these other shows, it's like, okay, that was super, super successful. And it's going to be hard for all of you to walk away, especially some of you, because you're probably never going to experience this ever again. But maybe it's time to walk away.
Yeah. And obviously I think that's part of the narrative right now is the creator of the show said he had a 3-season show written and completely planned out, and then FX came to him and said, hey, let's make it 4 seasons after season 2. And that's literally kind of what's happened, is that most people feel like he kind of said, okay, then I'm going to take 10 to 15% of what I wanted to do in the final season and make that a whole one, and then have the last season be that like final 85%.
And then that probably works out, because then season 4 will probably be great. And everyone will be like, whoa, wow, season 3, a little bit down, but season 4, back to its best. Could we have a season 5? You know, like, because, you know, we spoke about Shogun, which we both loved. That's where you've got people who are like, nope, we did it. We can't do it again.
Oh, it's coming back now.
No, but you know what I mean? But like, still, the just being like, knowing, look, we can't just stretch this out because it started to be successful and change what our vision was for the TV show. But yeah, speaking of shows that maybe are not delivering on the big vision, I've begun watching Those About to Die, the Rome TV show with Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
For Those About to Die, I think it's called.
It's like a Gladiator spinoff.
Yeah, sort of. It's not great. Like, there's some decent acting in it, but it does the thing. It actually suffers from one of the problems that Horizon does, which is like this temptation that shows seem to fall for on movies a lot now, where they like introduce all of the characters within the first 15 minutes before any of the plot has developed. But it's like, here, meet everyone. So then that when other things happen, you'll know who they are. It's like, you could actually come up with a narrative where I get introduced to these characters, rather than just like flashing from one scene to another, so that later on in the show I go, oh, remember that person from the opening 4 minutes of episode 1, season 1. But it's okay. You know, it should kind of be in my wheelhouse, because I do like historical dramas, and it has like, it's centered largely around chariot racing and gambling in ancient Rome. Like, it should check a lot of boxes for me. Like, when they came up with a demographic of people who should like this show, like, I'm the perfect profile for them, and even I don't love it that much, so that's a sign that it was kind of a miss.
All right, I guess with that, we'll call it a day.
Sounds good.
Talk to you later.
See ya.